Not one, not two, but three quarterbacks. That's right. Does Rich Rodriguez have three quarterbacks he can actually win with in the Big 12 in 2025? Well, according to him, he thinks he just might. And that might be the biggest statement of the day coming from day 2 of Big 12 Media Days, at least from the West Virginia perspective. And we're going to talk about that in this episode of Couz's Corner. So hang around and we'll do it right now. What is up, and welcome into this episode of Couz's Corner, your home for top shelf college sports content around the West Virginia Mountaineers and the Big 12. At Big 12 Media Days Day 2, it was Rich Rod's turn to speak. He spoke at the podium, and he also spoke at some breakout sessions. When asked about the quarterbacks in the Big 12 and specifically about his quarterback room in Morgantown, here's what Rich Rod had to say. Now, when he was speaking at the podium, he said, and I quote, "There's a lot of good QBs. I think it's the best collection of QBs in the country by conference. But I like our quarterback room. There's a lot of positions I have some unknowns, and there's a little bit of unknown in our quarterback room, but there's 4 or 5 guys who have the talent to have success in our quarterback room, or 4 or 5 guys who we feel have the talent to have success in our quarterback room," end quote. So he feels good about his quarterback room. If you remember, I said in a previous video, one of the things Phil Steele said about Coach Rod, or at least when he interviewed Coach Rod for his 2025 preview magazine, one of the things Coach Rodriguez said to him was, it might be the deepest quarterback room he's ever had. And look at some of the quarterback rooms Rich Rod has coached. He's coached some very, very good quarterbacks. Now, he didn't say it was the best quarterback was on the roster he'd ever had, but the best quarterback room, the deepest quarterback room he's ever had, which means he has multiple guys he has faith in. That's what it tells me. Now, do I think West Virginia is going to have the best quarterback in the conference? I don't. When you look at what this conference has, they have 9 quarterbacks returning from last year. 9 out of 16 teams, 9 are returning. That's unusual in today's landscape with all the transfers. You have people like Josh Hoover over at TCU, Sawyer Robertson at Baylor, Sam Levitt at Arizona State. Can't forget about Avery Johnson at Kansas State, Baron Morton at Texas Tech. Go on down the list. Brendan Sorsby at Cincinnati, Noah Fafita at Arizona. You have some good transfers coming in. Caden Salter comes to the top of mind coming into the conference. But Rich Rod has faith in his room. He thinks he has multiple guys he can win with. Now, in one of the breakout sessions, when he was doing an interview with the guys over at the Big 12 Conference YouTube channel, Brock Osweiler asked him about the quarterbacks, specifically about his quarterbacks, and here's what he had to say. That's the room I'm least worried about from a talent, or that's the room I'm least worried about from an athletic and talent standpoint. I've got 3 guys that have played some games in college football. I've got a couple really good young players. So we have the talent there. I'm hoping I have 3 I can win with, and I think we do. If I have 2 we can win with, I'll play both of them. If I have 3, I'll play all 3. Holy smokes, will Rich Rod actually play 3 quarterbacks? Could we see Nicco Marchiol, Jaylen Henderson, and Max Brown all 3 play? Now, throughout most of the offseason, most fans have assumed that the battle is between Nicco Marchiol and Jaylen Henderson. But is it possible that Max Brown gets thrown into the mix and actually could win the job? Now, a lot of people who watched the spring game said Max Brown looked really good, especially when running the football. And we all know with Rich Rod's system, that is extremely important. Do you have a quarterback who can run the football successfully? You don't have to be blazing fast. It obviously helps, but you don't have to be. A power runner like a Nicco Marchiol could work. We saw that last year at Jacksonville State. Max Brown and Jaylen Henderson are both probably faster than Nicco Marchiol, but it doesn't mean they're better runners than Nicco. Do they have the same vision? Do they have the ability to run over people? All of that matters. Decision-making ability, it all plays a role. And, of course, throwing the football. But is it possible that Max Brown actually has a shot to win this job? I actually think he does. If you go back, I'll link to it at the end of this video, but when I broke down Max Brown's game when he transferred over, I actually like Max Brown. I think he's very underrated. His Pro Football Focus numbers don't blow you away. And yes, he threw a lot of picks. And in a minute, I'm going to show you the tail of the tape between these three guys, and you'll see his stats don't jump off the page at you. But man, when you watch this guy's film, when you watch his highlights, his arm talent to me jumps off the screen. He might, and again, this is arguable, and I'm not saying he does, but he might have as good an arm talent, if not better arm talent, than the other two guys. His issue has been decision-making in his career. He played a year at Florida and has played a year at Charlotte. And he's made some questionable decisions with the football. He's also dealt with some injury in his career, just like Jaylen Henderson has. But let's go ahead and pull up the tail of the tape here between these three quarterbacks. When you look at a lot of similarities here, they've all played somewhere in that 9 to 11 game range in their career. When you look at Nicco, he's completed 71 of 122 passes for 742 yards, 8 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, has a 58.2% completion percentage. His PFF grades in 2023, his PFF grade was 65.8, and in 2024, it was 60.1, of course, all those years being at West Virginia. When you look at his rushing numbers, as you'll see it there at the bottom of the spreadsheet, he's carried the ball 84 times for 285 yards for an average of 3.4 yards per carry. Now, that includes sack numbers as well, right? So keep that in mind. When you look at Jaylen Henderson, his career at both Fresno State, but mostly at Texas A&M, he's 58 for 86 passing, 67.4 completion percentage, which is higher, but he's thrown a lot fewer passes. He's thrown for 764 yards, 6 touchdowns, only 2 picks. Did not play in 2024 under new Texas A&M coach Mike Elko, but he did play in 2023 under Jimbo Fisher, and he had a 65.7 PFF grade, real similar to what Nicco had the same season. Jaylen Henderson in rushing the ball, he's carried the ball 57 times for 170 yards, an average of 3 yards per carry. Very similar numbers to Nicco, really. One more carry, he had a lot less carries as Nicco, but his yards per carry, not that far off, only 0.4 yards per carry difference. The biggest difference with Jaylen Henderson, though, his yards per attempt. He's thrown the ball down the field a lot more, apparently, averaging 8.9 yards per attempt. Now, the caveat there, obviously a lot more pass attempts, so that could affect that average. But at least it appears on paper he's thrown the ball down the field a little bit more. And when you see that his completion percentage is higher, that makes me feel pretty good about it. Now, when you go to Max Brown, the guy who everybody assumed was going to be the third-string quarterback, here are his numbers. 62 completions out of 121 attempts for a 51.2% percentage, obviously the lowest of the three. Has thrown for 753 yards, only 3 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. So his touchdown to interception ratio is not good at all. His PFF grades bear that out. 45.3 PFF grade in 2024 at Charlotte, and a 37.1 PFF grade in 2023 at Florida. So he has not shown out well statistics-wise. Running the ball, 57 carries, 170 yards, 3 yards per carry. I was looking at Henderson there. He's actually carried the ball 56 times for 109 yards, 1.9 yards per carry. Again, sacks are factored in. So Max Brown, statistically, well behind the other two guys in just about every category with the exception of yards. His yards per attempt is right around 6, same as Nicco's. But I'm telling you, don't rule Max Brown out. I think he has a lot of upside. His arm talent is there. He can throw the ball into tight windows, and he has a very, very strong arm. And he can run with it. Some of the folks who watched the spring game, I was not able to watch the spring game, not able to make it to the spring game. They say he looked pretty good. Some fans who were there say they thought he looked better than the other two. And he also has another extra year of eligibility than the other two guys. So do not rule Max Brown out to be the starting quarterback for the West Virginia Mountaineers. And do not rule out Rich Rodriguez playing 3 quarterbacks at some point during the season. He might do it in week 1 against Robert Morris. He might give if none of these guys have separated themselves going into the first week of the season, he might let all 3 guys play against Robert Morris. Heck, he might even do it in week 2 against Ohio. Who knows? It'll be very interesting to see how this happens. Or, this is a big or here. This could also be coach speak from Coach Rod, just trying to throw his opponents off, throw a curveball into the thing so that nobody knows who's going to win the job. He may already know in the back of his mind who he thinks is going to win the job because he said in press conferences before, even if I know who the quarterback is, I'm not going to tell you, meaning the media, meaning us, the fans. I'm not going to tell you until right before kickoff because I do not want the opponent to know who the starting quarterback is at West Virginia. So this could all be a smokescreen. It could all be one big smokescreen. It could be coach speak from Coach Rod, just so we don't know and the public don't know and the opponents don't know who the top guy is going into fall camp. So it'll be very interesting to see how this shakes out. I'm hoping the media will be granted more access into fall camp than they did in the spring so that we will have a little bit of an idea who's performing better at practice so that we might have some sort of an idea who may win the job going into the season, if anybody. Rich Rod has been known to start, remember the Pat White days. He had Adam Bednarik and Pat White both playing snaps until Bednarik finally got hurt in that Louisville game. Pat White come in and never looked back. Could see something else like that happen. Who knows? But all three guys, or at least two guys, will likely get a shot. You let me know in the comment section. Who do you think ultimately wins the job of these three quarterbacks? And do you think Max Brown has a legit chance to actually start games for West Virginia in 2025? Let me know. Want to give a quick shout out to my paid VIP channel members of this episode. I did not give them a proper shout out during the live stream I did the other day. So I want to make sure I honor them again and give them the shout out they deserve. If you want to be a channel member, there may be a join button below this video. If not, go to my channel homepage. There's a join button there beside the profile photo. But the VIP members of this episode are Jay Bird, Jeremy Vincent, Tosh Miller, Steve Moser, and Sasquatch 304. Thank you all for being paid members. There are 2 levels. You choose the one you want to be in. There are obviously perks that go with each one. It's also a very easy and inexpensive way to support what I do here on the show. You can help me for free by hitting the thumbs up button, by subscribing to the channel if you haven't yet, by turning on your notifications to be notified of future videos and future live streams. And if you have family or friends who love West Virginia Mountaineer sports, or even Big 12 sports for that matter, let them know about Couz's Corner. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you listening if you're listening on podcast only. And by the way, if you are listening on podcast, please do me a favor and give me a 5-star review. 5-star rating, it really helps. It would help grow my podcast. I would really appreciate it. Also, make sure you like it and follow us over at your favorite podcast platform. Thanks for tuning into the show. Hope the rest of your day's top shelf. Q Country Roads.